For 5 years, the man in booth 4 never spoke. Not one word, not a greeting, not a question. Until the morning Patricia's water broke on his polished shoes. She was 2 weeks from her due date, still working because one missed paycheck meant eviction. She lifted the coffee pot, just like every morning. And then the first contraction doubled her over, and her water broke.
Something's wrong. I think the baby's coming.
Call 9111. Somebody get a towel. Patricia, honey, breathe.
And then the statue spoke for the first time in 5 years.
I'll drive her. My car is outside. Keep her calm.
He didn't wait. He put an arm around her and walked her through the frozen parking lot to a black sedan.
Who is this man? Why did he finally speak?
As the diner lights shrank in the side mirror, another contraction ripped through her, and Patricia realized she was leaving everything she knew behind, with a man who had never once asked her name. 5 years earlier, Patricia walked into Rose's diner, answering a help wanted sign. Rose hired her on the spot, drawn to the quiet determination in the young woman's eyes. On her third morning, a gray-suited man slid into booth 4 at exactly 7:15. He didn't open the menu. He simply folded his hands and waited.
Good morning. What can I get for you today?
The man said nothing. He lifted one finger, then two, and pointed at the rye toast on the menu beside him.
Who is this man? And why won't he speak?
Don't take it personal, sweetie. That's just Mr. Ainsworth. He's been coming here for years. Same order, same silence. Nobody knows why.
Black coffee and rye toast. Every weekday morning, not a word, not a thank you. And yet, Patricia felt something unspoken in the quiet. Over the months, the silent routine became a strange comfort. While the world outside grew heavier for Patricia, this one corner of the diner stayed still.
One day, maybe he'll tell me why he comes here. But until then, I'll just keep the coffee warm.
She never imagined that the silence was not coldness. It was the most expensive silence she would ever be paid to keep. After her shift, Patricia walked home to a cramped apartment where a red-stamped notice, "Final eviction," was taped to the door.
I got another rejection. They said my certification isn't enough for the permanent crew.
We'll figure it out, Nick. We always do.
But the numbers on the table told a different story. With the baby due in 2 months, her extra shifts barely covered the rent.
I'll hit the temp agency again tomorrow. Construction, warehouse, whatever they got.
Patricia watched him go, then pressed her aching feet into the cold floor. The swelling had started weeks ago, a warning she couldn't afford to heed.
We're going to be okay, Patricia. I promise you.
Promises don't pay the landlord.
The eviction notice hung on the door like a countdown clock. 7 days. Tomorrow she'd pour coffee again for a man who never spoke, while 7 days rustled in the draft of a closing door. The next morning, the diner was half empty when Patricia arrived. Booth 4 was already occupied, a cup of black coffee untouched in front of him. Before she even hung up her coat, she saw a man shivering on the sidewalk outside. Without a word, she poured an extra cup and handed it through the door. Edward's eyes followed her every move, not with curiosity, with the weight of someone who was counting something invisible.
Honey, you look beat. Sit down for a minute.
I am fine, Rose. Just thinking about my mother. She raised me alone after my father walked out. I still don't know why.
She remembered a man in a trench coat walking away from a little yellow house, never looking back.
My mother never spoke ill of him. She just kept a photo on the shelf and changed the subject.
As a child, Patricia had made up stories about him. A secret agent, a doctor saving lives overseas. Anything to fill the silence he left. In booth 4, Edward's hand tightened around his cup. For a fraction of a second, the mask cracked. Something pained, almost human, flickered in his eyes. Then it was gone. He lifted his cup toward her, the silent signal for a refill, and Patricia buried the memory back where it always lived, just beneath the surface of every smile. Her doctor didn't mince words. Her blood pressure was dangerously high, and the baby might come early. She needed rest, not double shifts.
Rest is a luxury I can't afford. Nick can't know how bad this is. He's already drowning.
What did the doctor say?
Everything's fine. Just the usual checkup.
The next morning, a customer in a flannel shirt shoved his coffee cup toward her. About time. I've been waiting 10 minutes.
I am so sorry, sir. Let me top you off right now.
But the man wouldn't drop it. He called her an incompetent waste of space. Behind him, the gray suit rose from the booth. Edward didn't say a word. He simply let the man feel his gaze, cold and final, like a closing door. The man paid and left without a glance back.
Why would a man who never speaks defend me like that? What does he want from me?
That night, the swelling in her ankles was worse, and the doctor's warning echoed louder than any shout.
The company lost the contract. They let everyone go. I don't know what we're going to do.
2 weeks until eviction. 2 months until the baby. We have nothing left.
That afternoon at the diner, the edges of her vision kept softening, like the world was too bright. As she poured Edward's coffee, her fingers went numb. The pot slipped, splashing dark liquid across the table. Before she hit the floor, a hand caught her wrist. Edward pulled her upright, his grip solid and sure. He held her gaze for 3 silent seconds, then released her, his expression unreadable.
He saved me. Why does this man, who never speaks, keep protecting me?
She stumbled to the back room, her heart pounding, the red imprint of his fingers still on her wrist.
I can't do this. I can't keep standing, keep serving, keep pretending.
But she couldn't afford to stop. The eviction clock was the only rhythm she had left. The final eviction notice now had a date stamped in red. 3 days. Patricia had tried the loan office, the church fund, even a payday lender. All of them said no.
I begged them. I told them I was pregnant. They just looked at the numbers and shook their heads.
That afternoon, while pouring Edward his 3rd cup, the words spilled out of her like water over a dam.
I am losing my home, Mr. Ainsworth. Tomorrow they put my baby's crib on the curb. I have nothing left.
He didn't blink. He didn't even turn his head, just stared at the toast crumbs on his plate.
Of course. 5 years of silence, and I thought today he'd suddenly start caring.
She walked to the back room, closed the door, and let the tears shake her, her whole body convulsing with the weight of a lifetime of no's. Rose found her minutes later, apron soaked, unable to speak, unable to speak.
I don't have much, but you can stay with me. We'll figure it out.
But Patricia just shook her head. She knew even Rose's kindness couldn't stop an eviction 3 days away.
I got something. Graveyard shift at the warehouse. It's only temporary, but it's cash.
That's something. That's really something.
But even with the extra pay, it wouldn't stop the eviction. The numbers still didn't add up. The next morning, as she refilled Edward's cup, the light caught his silver watch. An expensive piece, custom-made, something a retired executive might wear. Through the diner window, she saw the black sedan idling at the curb, its chrome trim gleaming, even in the gray light.
He drives a car like that and sits in this booth every day. Maybe he's some lonely millionaire with nowhere else to go. Rose, you think Mr. Ainsworth is secretly rich? Maybe he built a fortune and now just drinks coffee in silence.
Honey, if he's a billionaire, I am the Queen of England. He's just a quiet old man with a routine. Don't read too much into it.
Edward's face never changed. He lifted his cup, drank, and stared at the wall as if they weren't even there. But even as she laughed it off, a quiet thought lodged in her mind. What if Rose was wrong? Patricia's alarm cut through a dreamless sleep. Her back ached before she even stood up.
I've got to go. Call me if anything changes.
She dressed slowly, her uniform tight against her belly. The diner was only a mile away, but the walk felt like miles. Inside, the morning rush was already humming. Booth 4 was empty, for now. Edward arrived at exactly 7:15. He nodded once at the empty cup. She filled it.
Tomorrow is eviction day. How did it come to this?
Mid-pour, A grip tightened around her middle. A contraction sharper than any before. She gasped. Coffee splashing onto the table. Her water broke in a warm rush that soaked through her apron. The diner froze. Then Edward's voice cut through the noise, the first time in 5 years. But Patricia didn't hear the words. She only heard the sound, a command, calm and low. He guided her outside, past the stunned faces, into the cold. The sedan's engine was already running. He had kept it idling all this time. He eased her into the passenger seat, clicking the belt over her belly. His movements were practiced, urgent, as if he'd rehearsed this 1,000 times. The engine purred, the heater already warming the leather seats. He had not just been a silent customer. He had been waiting for this day, ready for this emergency. Another contraction seized her. She doubled over, her forehead pressing to the cold dashboard. A scream tore from her throat before she could stop it. Through the haze of pain, she heard his voice for the first time. Not a question, but a calm, deep command that cut through the chaos.
Breathe, Patricia. The hospital is 10 minutes away.
How do you know my name? You've never spoken a word to me.
I've been listening. For 5 years, I've been watching you. Every morning, every kind gesture, every struggle.
Why? What do you want?
I am an attorney. That's all you need to understand right now.
Attorney? For who? What kind of attorney watches a waitress for 5 years?
The hospital appeared through the foggy windshield. Edward pulled into the emergency bay as if he owned it. A nurse rushed forward. Edward intercepted her with a calm that made everyone stop and listen.
She's in active labor. Her water broke 20 minutes ago. Here is her insurance.
Patricia saw the card flash past. Her name, a registration date 3 years old, a policy number she didn't recognize.
Insurance? I don't have insurance. The diner doesn't offer insurance. How does he have this? Edward, how do you have an insurance card with my name on it?
I told you, I am an estate attorney.
That's not an answer.
A contraction stole her breath. The world narrowed to a white-hot ring of pain, and the nurse was already wheeling her through the double doors. In her fist, the insurance card crumpled. 3 years. He had been silently preparing for her for 3 years before she ever poured his first cup. They wheeled her into the delivery room, machines beeping, bright lights cutting through her daze. Edward followed, a gray ghost in the sterile white.
Who hired you, Edward? Stop hiding behind your attorney title. Who sent you to watch me?
Your father, Harold Ainsworth.
My father, Harold? That's impossible. He left. He abandoned my mother and me when I was a child.
Number. He never abandoned you. He loved you, Patricia, enough to hire me to protect you.
A contraction cut off her words. The nurse pressed her back against the pillow, urging her to breathe.
He loved me? Then why did he hide? Why watch from the shadows for 5 years?
The doctor arrived, and Edward was guided to the hallway. But his words hung in the sterile air, an echo that wouldn't settle.
My father sent him. My father watched me pour coffee, caught me when I fell, kept silent for 5 long years.
As the epidural took hold, the deepest pain wasn't in her body. It was the realization that the silence in booth 4 had been a father's voice, quiet, constant, finally heard. When the contraction eased, Patricia opened her eyes and fixed them on Edward. The question that had been building for 5 years finally surfaced.
Why, Edward? Why would my father hire a man to watch his daughter for 5 years without a single word?
There is a trust, a very substantial trust. Your father established it with one condition. You could only access it after being observed for 5 years, found worthy through your actions.
Worthy? He had you spy on me, test me, like some kind of audition for his money.
Number, to see your kindness. He wanted to know that you were kind, even when no one was watching, even when you had nothing to give.
All those mornings, every smile, every cup of coffee, Every refill, it was a test. And I didn't even know.
Her voice cracked, and the sobs she had been holding back finally broke through. Raw, heaving cries that mixed pain, betrayal, and a strange, unwilling gratitude.
He didn't trust me? My own father needed a lawyer to check if I was a good person.
On the contrary, Patricia, he believed you were. But the trust required evidence. He died watching you prove him right.
Outside the door, a nurse murmured that it was time to push. But inside, Patricia was still wrestling with a ghost who had loved her from booth 4. It began decades ago, in a little yellow house in East Orange. A young man named Harold Ainsworth cradled his newborn daughter, promising her the world. But the world he had built was dangerous. A business deal with the wrong people. Death threats. He made a choice no father should have to make. He left in the middle of the night, not to abandon them, but to draw the danger away. He never told his wife the truth, hoping the mystery would keep her from running toward him. 30 years later, Harold had rebuilt his life and his fortune in the shadows. But the cancer diagnosis came without warning. He had months. He knew what he needed to do.
I need you to watch her, Edward. Not protect her from me, but from the world forgetting her. See if she's kind. See if she's still the woman I hoped she'd become.
Edward was the attorney who had helped him build his empire. He agreed without hesitation. For the next 5 years, every weekday morning, he sat in a diner booth and observed her. Every month, Edward sent a report, and every month, Harold read about a waitress who gave coffee to the homeless, who defended a rude customer with grace, who kept a smile even when her feet were swollen and her rent was due. In his final days, Harold wrote a letter. He sealed it in an envelope marked to Patricia and asked Edward to deliver it when the time came. He died 6 months before Patricia's water broke, but he had already seen enough. He knew she would pass the final test, not because she knew she was being tested, but because she didn't. Back in the delivery room, Patricia opened her eyes. The ghost was not gone. He was waiting, in the form of a folded note that Edward still had to deliver. The hallway shook with footsteps. Nick burst through the delivery room door, coat still on, eyes wild.
Patricia! I got Rose's call. Who is this man? What's going on?
Nick, please, he's an attorney. He worked for my father. I'll explain everything, but I need you to just hold my hand.
Your father? The one who abandoned you. You've been spying on my wife for some deadbeat?
I was observing her kindness, not invading her privacy. There is a trust, a very large one, that she has now earned.
Before Nick could respond, a contraction whipped through Patricia. She screamed, and the machines beeped faster.
She's fully dilated. It's time to push. Sir, you'll have to continue this outside.
No, both of you stay. I don't care about the trust right now. Just don't leave me alone.
Nick squeezed her hand. Edward stood rigid by the wall. The doctor took position, and the room filled with the rhythmic chant of pushing. In the strained quiet between contractions, Patricia looked at the two men who had guarded her life. One with love, one with love, one with duty. And let the next wave take her. One last push, raw and tearing. And then the room filled with a sound that drowned everything else. A baby's cry, strong and defiant. A nurse placed the tiny, squirming girl onto Patricia's chest. She was whole, she was breathing, and for a breath, the world had no other problems.
She's here, Nick. She's really here.
In the corner, Edward had not moved. His face, so long a mask, had softened imperceptibly.
Edward, stay. You don't have to leave yet.
I'll be in the waiting room when you are ready. We have documents to discuss, but not tonight.
Nick's arms tightened around her shoulders. But he didn't protest. He didn't understand, but he trusted her. The nurse placed a tiny hat on the baby's head. Patricia counted the fingers, the lashes, the miracle of it all.
She's safe. We're safe. And I'll deal with the rest tomorrow.
But even as she drifted towards sleep, Patricia knew that the documents in Edward's briefcase would change everything, and that her father's silence had finally spoken louder than any word. The next morning, Edward entered the room with a slim leather briefcase. Nick sat up, instantly alert, but Patricia just nodded. She was ready.
The trust is irrevocable and fully funded. Before you sign, your father wished for you to read this first.
He placed a worn envelope on the tray. The handwriting was shaky but deliberate. To Patricia,
My dearest Patricia, I've watched you through Edward's eyes for 5 long years. Every kindness you showed, every tired smile, every cup of coffee poured for a stranger. These were the inheritance I always wanted to give you. You are worthy, not because of this money, but because you are my daughter. With all my love, your father.
she wept openly, the years of abandonment and the fresh wound of surveillance finally healing into something like love.
Take your time, honey. We're not going anywhere.
Okay, tell me where to sign.
Edward placed the trust agreement before her. She signed each page with a steady hand, the pen feeling lighter than the coffee pot she'd carried for years. When she finished, Edward tucked the papers away. For the first time in 5 years, he offered a small, almost imperceptible smile, and Patricia understood. The test was never about the money. It was about a father who found a way back. Edward closed his briefcase, then reached into his breast pocket and withdrew a small folded paper.
Your father asked me to give you this.
He set the folded paper on her tray, then stepped back and nodded once. She unfolded it. 4 words in a shaky but familiar hand. Your father always tipped.
He never left $1, but he left me this, the longest, quietest tip in the world.
In booth 4, a cup of coffee and a plate of rye toast sat untouched, waiting for a morning that would never come.
Goodbye, Dad.
The note shook in her hand. For 5 years, she'd thought he was a customer. Now she knew. He was the tip her father had been leaving her all along, and for the first time in 5 years, the silence in booth 4 was not empty. It was full. A week later, Patricia pushed open the diner door. No uniform, no coffee pot, just a baby carrier in one hand, and Nick's steady presence behind her.
Patricia, oh honey, look at you.
Rose pulled her into a fierce hug, careful of the newborn between them.
I had to see it, just once more.
Booth 4 was empty, the coffee cup gone, the plate of rye toast just a memory in the morning light.
It's strange to see it without him.
Number, it feels full now. Full of everything he never said.
You always have a job here, but I think you've got bigger things now.
Maybe one day my daughter will pour coffee in that booth, so she knows where she comes from.
She stepped back outside into the cold, her daughter warm against her chest, and the diner's neon sign hummed behind them, a quiet promise that some kindnesses take years to reveal themselves. The next morning, Patricia returned to the diner alone, her daughter bundled against the cold. She walked behind the counter, her hand brushing the chrome, and looked at booth 4.
Your grandfather always tipped.
The silence that followed was not empty. It was the echo of 5 patient years. Outside, the diner's neon sign glowed against the winter sky, a quiet promise still burning. She touched the folded note in her coat pocket. The paper had softened, but the words held. Some inheritances arrive in thick envelopes. Others come in decades of silence. Her daughter stirred. Patricia looked down at the tiny face, the chapter her father never got to read. She would teach her that kindness doesn't need a witness, and that love doesn't always speak. Outside, the neon buzzed, spelling out a name that had seen it all. Rose's. For 5 years, a man sat in booth 4 and never said a word. But as Patricia finally turned to leave, she realized he'd said everything. Weeks passed. The folded note found a place on the mantel beside the photo of her mother. Patricia no longer wore a waitress uniform, but sometimes, when the baby slept, she still woke at 5 a.m. out of habit. She would look at the note and remember the man who never spoke, who was never a customer. Rose kept the coffee warm every morning, just in case. Some rituals don't end with the person who started them, and the neon sign still buzzed at 7:15, a silent witness to everything that had never been said.
He wasn't a billionaire. He was my father, tipping the waitress who never knew.
She opened the diner's door one last time, not as an employee, but as a woman who had been poured into by the most expensive silence she would ever be paid to keep. In booth 4, a small vase held a single fresh rose. The note beneath it had 4 words. Your father always tipped. And outside, the diner's neon hummed one last time, as if to say, some tips can't be counted in dollars. The diner stayed open. Through winters and summers, the neon buzzed and the coffee kept coming. Inside, booth 4 never filled. Rose kept a fresh cup of black coffee and rye toast on the table, even though no one ever came to claim it. And every morning, Patricia came in, no longer to pour, but to sit across from the empty chair, a familiar stillness settling around her.
I still miss the silence. Not the silence of a stranger, but my father's.
One morning, a small hand reached for the folded note that never left the table.
Careful, sweetheart. That's your grandfather's gift.
Her daughter, barely 4, looked at the empty booth and asked the question Patricia once carried herself. Who sat there?
A man who loved me before I knew what love was. And he never said a word, but he said everything.
She tucked the note back into its spot. The paper had grown soft, but the words never faded. Years pass. The neon still hums at 7:15. The coffee's always hot, and the tip that never was $1 is still the richest inheritance in East Orange.